Art is subjective. I'm sure you heard this phrase in reviews and discussions. Some people like vanilla, and some people like toothpaste. Like, duh, right? But what does this actually mean? What do all these scores on different categories mean? As a starting point, let's look at a popular site for anime reviews, My Anime List. The typical reviews on this website gives a score for story, art, sound, characters, enjoyment, and an overall rating for a show. How subjectivity plays into this is obvious. Different people will give different scores to each categories based on what they experienced. Very simple so far. But let me make it a little bit more complicated. If everyone is giving their own scores to every show, what's to say all the scores are consistent? What's the difference between a 2 out of 10 and a 3 out of 10? Is 5 a score for an acceptable show because it's in the middle, or is 7 acceptable because that's where it gets good enough for you to watch? My 10 out of 10 can be different to someone else's 10 out of 10. Even if a show has some minor problems, maybe the positives of the show are so overwhelming that it's still a must-watch for you. Maybe you found literally nothing bad about the show and enjoyed everything about it. So not only are the numbers for each category different, but the same number can also mean different things for everyone. Wait, categories? Why are we only scoring these 5 things individually anyway? Can you really have a good story with boring characters? Isn't anime a visual and auditory medium? Why are we scoring these separately? Isn't enjoyment basically affected by every other category? And most importantly, are all of these categories even on the same level of importance to each other? Typical comedy shows don't have much of an overarching storyline, but they're still funny. What's the point of a highly animated show if it all goes to waste on a dumbass story? Hell, some people watch shows just to see a cute girl on screen and that's enough. You know who you are. So not only are the scores on categories different, and the same scores can mean different things to people, different categories hold different weight to each individuals. And this applies to what makes a good story in general. People are more likely to forgive mistakes made by shows they enjoyed than the shows they didn't. Take for example the incredibly popular anime film Your Name. One of the most common criticisms of the show I have seen is the date plot hole. How did the main characters not realize that they were in different times if their respective dates would show up every time they took a look at their phones? And don't get me wrong here, counter arguments have been made many times. But the truth is, no one really cares. Or to phrase it better, it didn't affect the enjoyment of the show for many people, myself included. There's so much other things to enjoy here, and I nitpick things like crazy when I watch anything. Thank you, CinemaSins. On the other hand, people are less forgiving for shows they despise. Let's look at some of the criticisms of criticisms. I think one of the most common defense put up by fans of an anime is that the person criticizing just didn't understand something about their show. Primarily, the rules and logic of the show's universe, like Fate Stay Night, or missing the message or the point of the show, like Re:Zero. First up, Fate. How much about Fate Stay Night do you think you know? That was rhetorical. The answer is, you don't. Fate Stay Night requires you to complete the original visual novel, watch Fate Zero, read everything on Time Moon Wiki, read any other research I missed, and then maybe you'll understand what the fuck is going on. But you're just an average viewer, and Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works looks pretty cool. So without research, you watch the damn thing and hold on, what just happened here? Dodge the undodgeable blow? Then you find out that the spear, its name is Gable by the way, has a curse that always pierces the enemy's heart by reversing causality or whatever. Well, that's cool and all, but then this scene doesn't make any sense. Hold it! This scene does make sense because Saber survived due to her luck stat. Okay. It still sucks. I'm not saying there isn't an explanation, I'm saying the explanation is stupid, which I would have never known about if I just watched the show. Is the explanation in the visual novel or the wiki? Yes, but we're talking about the anime, not the visual novel, otherwise I wouldn't even be here. You can explain to me for hours about why this scene is fine for you, but at the end of the day, watching a spear that can reverse causality failing to do just that because your blonde wife who flipped a coin and got heads is not fun. Then we got the you missed your point argument. Sometimes a show isn't just trying to tell a story, it's also trying to send a message, or there's a greater narrative in the show. Being different doesn't make you special. A shut-in's life is actually terrifying. A shut-in's life is not that bad, and I can appreciate that. I'm aware of these underlying messages. Doesn't mean I'm going to like your show. When Re:Zero was airing, I could not like Subaru. I hated his spunk, I hated his voice, I hated how he was meta-savvy. I get it, you know you're in another world, you're not special. And worst of all, Episode 13. Episode 13. If you weren't watching the show while it aired, for most of the people who didn't leave, this was one of the best episodes ever. Summarizing the show briefly, Subaru was supposed to show the shortcomings of a lot of otakus and needs. Re:Zero wasn't an escapist fantasy like most other isekai shows. It was a show which made the main character suffer. Before he could better himself, to be rid of his otaku tendencies that the audience may also possess. A bit of self-reflection for the viewers. And I hated Re:Zero. Why? Because I didn't care about Subaru, or Rem, or Amelia. The only reason why I even finished the damn thing was because my friends were watching it. I was incredibly brief about it in this video, so educate me if you want. But I get the point of Re:Zero. That doesn't mean I can't hate it, and I can't say I hated the main character and thus hated the show.
But you're supposed to hate him here. That's the point.
If I told you there was a show which was bad, and the point of a show was to be bad, would you call it a good show? I'm afraid some of you fuckers might actually say yes and miss the whole point of the question. So the next time you see someone give a 7 to your favorite show, don't worry about it. There's probably a reason as to why he gave that score. And he might have even enjoyed it as much as you did. Just pat yourself on the back for having superior taste.